What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got our Week 13 NFL game picks, outright versus the spread, along with our locks of the week. So make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And before looking at these games, I do want to give a quick shout out to OddsJam because it continues to be the place that I use for all of my NFL betting research. And whether it's the NFL or really any other sport out there as well, make sure to check out OddsJam because what you can do with their live line shopping and comparison of sports books is absolutely awesome to guarantee you get the best odds out there. And not only that, whether you're a beginner or an expert, check out OddsJam betting tools like their positive EV tool, which shows you line discrepancies so you know you're getting the best odds, or their arbitrage tool so you get equal and opposite bets for a risk-free return. Link will be in the description, so again, make sure to check them out. But with that being said, let's kick off with our Sunday games, and we start with the Bucs at the Falcons. Divisional clash here. The Bucs 8-3 after beating the Colts. The Falcons 5-6 after beating the Jaguars. But I think this is where this winning streak ends for the Falcons. Simply put, the Bucs are the better team through and through. Okay, they haven't had this best slew of games this last month, but I still think that, it's a rough patch. It happens from time to time to the best teams in the NFL. It's been a weird NFL season, but even with that being the case, the Bucs shouldn't struggle all that much here versus the Falcons. They'll be without Antonio Brown. He's suspended, but that's been the case again here for the last month and a half, so nothing too crazy there. The Bucs still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, who's been awesome, and then at the center of it all, Tom Brady, a great offensive line, a good defense as well. And the Falcons, Matt Ryan, who's been extremely inconsistent, turnover prone, a questionable offensive line with not all too many weapons. I mean, again, the fact that Cordero Patterson has been your top one weapon this entire season kind of says it all. Kyle Pitts, he's a nice, talented rookie, very physical at the tight end position, but again, he's a rookie, inconsistent, and I do like somebody like a Russell Gage, but there needs to be more weapons for the Falcons. They're not built to come from behind, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think the Bucs come out fast. I think they take a big lead and then kind of cruise for the rest of the game. I could see this being a blowout with multiple turnovers for the Falcons. Give me the Bucs here. Feel very good about that one outright. Even on the spread, the Falcons plus 10.5, so big underdogs. I got to go with the Tampa Bay Bucs there as well on the spread. I think that spread should be higher. The only way I could see the Falcons covering is if the Bucs really, and I mean big time, take their foot off the gas pedal. But even if that happens, I think there's, again, just so much so the better team. So give me the Bucs outright and on the spread. Then moving on, we've got the Cardinals at the Bears. The Cards 9-2. The Bears 4-7 after beating the Detroit Lions barely. Now, here the big question mark is, does Justin Fields play? I would guess no. He has yet to be cleared, so probably going to be the Andy Dalton show. But, if you're a Bears fan and at least you're hoping for short-term success, that might not be the worst thing. This offense operates better with Andy Dalton. He spreads the football down the field more so than Justin Fields his rookie year, to some extent to be expected. So I actually think the Bears, to some extent, have a better chance to hang with the Cardinals with Andy Dalton under center, because the Cardinals are expected to get Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins back, and that's absolutely a big deal. This offense, the fact that this team is still 9-2 without Murray and Hopkins missing several games each is very impressive. But with those two guys back, the Cardinals return to being one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best offenses in the NFL. This Bears defense doesn't scare me. And sure, up front, they have some pieces, definitely more so than in the secondary, but Kyler Murray, with what he can do on the ground, I think it's going to neutralize a lot of the strengths for this Bears defense. I like the Arizona Cardinals here outright in this game. I think they just have such a huge quarterback advantage. Also, in terms of their weapons to a large extent, you look at, Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, James Conner, Zach Ertz. It's a long list. Give me the Arizona Cardinals here outright. The only question is on the spread, who do you go with? The Bears are at plus 7.5. Again, I tend to give the advantage here to the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, if they were without Murray, without DeAndre Hopkins, like has been the case this last month, it'd be a different conversation. But with those two guys back, I think it kind of puts the needle in their favor. Give me the Cardinals on the spread as well. Then moving on, we have got the LA Chargers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chargers 6-5 after losing to the Broncos. The Bengals 7-4 after beating the brakes off the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think this will be a high-scoring affair here. Yes, the Chargers kind of played down to their competition and disappointed in those divisional clashes. And that's kind of what we predicted last week versus the Broncos. We said, don't be surprised if the Chargers lose here. That's kind of exactly what happened. But I think, the Chargers have that tendency to have some down games, and then the week afterwards to kind of figure it out and have some high-scoring affairs. I think that's what we're going to see here. Offensively, both these teams are stacked. The Chargers, obviously Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, an awesome offensive line, then Justin Herbert. The Bengals, Joe Mixon has been great all season long. He can have success versus Chargers run defense, then Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Joe Burrow. It's going to be really interesting here. I think this game goes back and forth, kind of down to the wire. But I'll go with the Bengals to win here at home. I think they've been a little bit more consistent all season long. So for that reason, I give them the ever so slight edge. But I don't think this is a bad game to potentially hedge your bets on. I do like the Bengals outright, but on the spread, they are at -3. If that spread goes something like -3.5, -4, I wouldn't mind taking the Chargers on the spread in that case. But right now, if it's at -3 and if it goes any lower, I would just stick with the Bengals on the spread that way. Then afterwards, we've got the Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. The Vikings 5-6 after losing to the Niners. The Lions 10-1, still technically winless after losing to the Bears. And now here, the big news for the Vikings is they're going to be without Dalvin Cook for a little bit. But honestly, versus an opponent in the Detroit Lions, I don't think it matters all that much. Alexander Mattison should be able to have plenty of success versus this Lions defense. And even if the rushing attack struggles a little bit, Kirk Cousins with Thielen, with Justin Jefferson, should be able to take care of business versus the Lions. And on the flip side, the Lions are going to be without DeAndre Swift in this game, arguably their top offensive weapon. And even though they do have Jamal Williams, I don't think it's a one-for-one replacement. Other guys are going to have to step up on this team. I envision TJ Hawkinson is going to be even more so involved. But at the end of the day, I think missing Swift and then just with how bad your defense has been all year long is too much for the Detroit Lions to overcome. On the spread, they're at +7. Okay, it's a divisional clash, so maybe to some extent, I understand that the Lions can kind of hang with the Vikings for a little bit, but I have to go with the Minnesota Vikings outright here, and also tend to go with them on the spread. I just think this offense without DeAndre Swift for the Lions, it's going to be completely, to some extent, night and day. He's such an integral part for this offense, so give me the Vikings on the spread as well. Then moving on, we have got the Colts at the Texans. The Colts 6-6 after losing to the Bucs. No shame in that. The Texans 2-9 after losing to the Jets. Definitely some shame in that. And honestly, I think they're going to continue this losing streak because the Colts at 6-6, they're better than their record indicates. They played the Bucs tough. In fact, they dominated that first half, and then turnovers just became a problem, and they ultimately ended up losing. But the point being here, I think they're just so much better than the Texans. I really, really do. Doesn't matter who's a quarterback for the Texans. They've kind of, fallen down to earth, showing us their true colors. The Colts with that rushing attack, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a huge, huge day. Carson Wentz should be able to have success versus this Texans defense. Give me the Indianapolis Colts. I feel pretty confident about this game, regardless if it's a divisional clash. Colts all day long. The Texans are at plus 9.5 on the spread. I'm still going with the Colts here. A lot of these home underdogs are big dogs, and I think for a good reason, give me the Colts to win outright and on the spread. Then moving on, we have got the Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. So another divisional clash, the Broncos 6-5 after beating the Chargers, the Chiefs 7-4. They've kind of gotten back to their winning ways a little bit. This is, going to be an interesting game, though. I think the Broncos kind of been up and down, but showing they are somewhat capable here. They've got a defense that, kind of bend but don't break mentality. Offensively, the Broncos are going to be without Melvin Gordon, so it's on paper going to be the Javonte Williams show. They do have the weapons at wide receiver. The question is, again, at quarterback, what do you see? And whether it's Bridgewater, whether it's Drew Lock, I do think that Bridgewater gives them a better chance to win this game. I just don't think at Kansas City, especially, if this game was at Denver, I think it'd be a different situation. We could have a conversation. But at Kansas City, I have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game outright at least. Offensively, they've gotten a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, getting Tyreek Hill, especially Travis Kelce, more involved. I still don't believe in this defense, which is why I actually think the Broncos can kind of hang in there. If Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback, that's kind of the caveat I'm putting on it, because the spread, the Kansas City Chiefs at -10, that seems a little bit too high for this divisional clash in particular, especially with how up and down the Chiefs have been. I still think that they have, issues there that haven't been taken care of, that could potentially rear their head in certain situations in the playoffs. That offensive line is still a question mark. I think the defense is still a question mark. So something to keep your eyes on. And with the spread being so high, I tend to go with the Denver Broncos getting 10 points. I don't mind that at all. Then moving on, we've got the New York Giants at the Miami Dolphins. I feel like this one is going to be relatively simple. But to be fair, the Giants are 4-7. And they did just beat the Eagles, but man, that was such an awful game. While the Dolphins 5-7, they are trending upwards with Tua back under center, obliterated the Carolina Panthers, took care of business in that game. And honestly, I think they can do the same here versus the Giants, who will be without Daniel Jones. Probably not going to have Shepard or Kadarius Toney either. So you're going to have Glennon throwing to the likes of Kenny Golladay, who hasn't done anything, Darius Slayton, and then probably a heavy dose of Saquon Barkley. But I think in a game that could get away from the Giants, the rushing attack could potentially not be all that big of a factor. I like the Miami Dolphins here. They've been trending upwards. I think the defense is going to flex their muscles again. I don't see the Giants having all that much scoring success. So for that reason, give me the Dolphins to win this game. I like them outright on the spread. They're only at -3. It feels like that number should be way higher. It feels like it should be -6, -7, pushing a touchdown. So I'm hammering the Dolphins on the spread. Then moving on, we've got the Eagles at the Jets. The Eagles 5-7 after, again, I don't know how they lost to the Giants. While the Jets 3-8 after beating the Texans. Here the big question mark is the status of Jalen Hurts, questionable with that ankle. Ultimately, I do think he ends up playing, but even if he doesn't, the Eagles have a capable backup in Gardner Minshew, and they're facing the Jets. So let's be honest, they should win this game. I think the Jets are worse off with Zach Wilson under center just for this season. You don't know, I'm talking about short-term, game-to-game, but obviously they have to see if he's the future. But again, that's a conversation for another time. The point being is I don't think they have the same scoring upside with Wilson under center. Give me the Eagles to win this game. I think they should be able to run the hell out of the football, whoever they have at running back. And if Jalen Hurts is back, he'll obviously contribute a little bit. And on paper, these wide receivers for the Eagles should have success versus this Jets defense as well. Give me the Eagles to win this game outright. The Jets are at +6.5 on the spread. I'm going to go with the Eagles here to cover that number, whether it's Hurts, whether it's Minshew. I think he's capable enough as a backup to get this victory. I like the Eagles. Moving on, Washington at the Raiders. Washington 5-6, big win over the Seahawks. The Raiders 6-5, huge win on Thanksgiving over the Dallas Cowboys in overtime. Kudos to them. But again, I think this is another game where you just have two inconsistent sides. I could see this being an absolute coin flip of a game, and I think this is a really good game to kind of, just hedge your bets on, because I could see both these sides winning. I think it's going to be a close contest. I don't think it's going to be a blowout one way or the other. For Washington, McKissick not expected to play, so I anticipate a big usage day for Antonio Gibson. I'm not the biggest Heineke believer, but he can probably have success versus this Raiders defense. And then on the flip side, Darren Waller not expected to play for the Raiders. That's a pretty big loss. So, probably a big game for like Hunter Renfrow, guys like Kenyon Drake. We'll see what happens here. But again, I'm looking at the spread. The Raiders are favored at -2.5. I think without Darren Waller, it's, again, it's a coin flip. If you had Darren Waller, I'd probably feel more confident going with the Raiders. So for that reason, I'll give the advantage, slight one, to Washington. I think I'd take them on the spread regardless. And since it's such a small number, them getting a couple extra points, I feel like the smart move is to probably also take them outright. So that's the way I kind of lean for this game. But honestly, this is probably my least favorite game to bet on this entire week. So I'd probably just do my best to avoid it overall. Then Jags at the LA Rams. I think this, again, is pretty simple here. The LA Rams versus the Jacksonville Jaguars with a questionable James Robinson, their top offensive weapon, on an offense in general that has been very inconsistent. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played up to expectations. Don't get me started on Urban Meyer and the job he's done as a head coach. The Jaguars are 2-9 after losing to the Falcons. The Rams 7-4, tough loss to the Packers. As of late, they've kind of been on a losing streak. But guess what? This is the perfect get-right game. Rams by $1 billion. No, obviously I'm exaggerating, but Rams should have a pretty easy go at it here, regardless if Darrell Henderson plays or not. That's how much better the Rams are. And if he doesn't, Sony Michel should be just fine versus the Jaguars. Give me the LA Rams here to win. They're favored by -13, the biggest spread of the week with good reason. Yes, the Rams, again, have been a little bit disappointing this last month, but I think they get right here. This screams a get-right game where they just blow out, they bully a bad Jaguars team. It's a high spread, but I'm going to go with it. I think the Rams win by at least 13. Give me them outright and on the spread. Then Ravens at the Steelers. Ravens 8-3. The Steelers 5-1 after losing to the Bengals. The Ravens beat the Browns last week. That was not all that high-scoring, exciting of a game, but regardless, they got the victory. So big win for them as, they duke it out with likely, again, the Bengals for that division. And this is a big divisional clash here. The two teams haven't played yet, but obviously the Steelers not playing like the Steelers of old. The defense, it's been questionable. Offensively, Big Ben has some good games, but more so you question why he's playing this season more than anything. Again, they've got some really great pieces, the Steelers do. Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Chase Claypool, Freiermuth at tight end. But I just think the Ravens are the better team. The Steelers, too up and down. I don't trust Big Ben and his arm. The Steelers defense, too up and down. Give me Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens bounce back offensively. I expect big games for Marquise Brown, for Mark Andrews. Give me the Ravens to win this game. I know it's a divisional clash. I know it's a heated rivalry, the biggest one in this division, but I just think the Ravens right now, simply put, are the better team. So give me them to win this game. The Steelers at +3.5. Again, if this was the Steelers of last year or 2 years ago, I would go with the Steelers getting that, getting that number. But right now, I just can't go with the Steelers. And the spread, again, isn't even all that high. It's only +3.5. So give me the Baltimore Ravens to win this game outright and on the spread. Then 49ers at the Seahawks. 49ers 6-5 after beating the Vikings. Seahawks 3-8 after losing to Washington. This is a game. It's in the NFC West, so again, anything can happen. But man, I don't understand how the Seahawks have played so poorly. Russell Wilson, again, I say it every week. Did he rush coming back from that finger injury? I don't know. Is it just a situation where Seattle has to burn it down and just clean house? Pete Carroll, his day's probably numbered. It's a weird situation. The Seahawks are underdogs at home at +3.5. But it's tough to disagree with that, the way they've played. Again, my only worry here is it's an NFC West divisional clash. Literally anything can happen in these games. When you think it's for sure going to go one way, it usually goes the other way. That's why this game makes me nervous. From what I've seen, the eye test, it tells me go with the 49ers. Outright and on the spread. They've just been playing better. With the healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers should win this game even without Deebo Samuel. I'm going to go with them. I wouldn't be shocked if Seattle, somehow gets it right and gets this victory, but I think it's all a moot point for Seattle. I think their season is done. So again, I'm going to go with the 49ers here. But again, probably the second toughest game in my opinion to kind of pinpoint for the week. But I'll go with the 49ers outright and on the spread. And then finally, we've got the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots. The Bills at home, Monday night, Patriots 8-4, Bills 7-4. So huge game for the division. This one is going to be really, really interesting, but I don't think this one kind of shapes up to be the type of game where the Patriots, necessarily dominate. Yes, I know they had a lot of success last week versus the Tennessee Titans, but the Titans and the Bills, pretty night and day difference in my opinion. I think that the Bills are just offensively a lot more reliable. They just obliterated the Saints. I think their defense is better. They've got a good rush defense. So the Patriots, the recent success they've had with that duo of Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, I'm a little bit skeptical. So Mac Jones is going to have to do more, and I just don't think he has the necessary weapons to keep up. He's got a couple guys, Jacoby Myers. He's got some options at tight end. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to keep up with Josh Allen and the Bills. I think Josh Allen has played better as of late. Stephon Diggs has really been coming on strong these last couple of games as well. I have to go with the Buffalo Bills here. I know the Patriots technically have the better record, even though they've played one more game. And, they're trending very much so in the right direction. Mac Jones playing the best football out of any rookie quarterback. Very impressive. Bill Belichick doing his thing. And it's a divisional clash, and Bill is a factor in this. But again, on paper, I just don't think this is the type of matchup the Patriots are going to have success in. But hey, I could definitely see them doing something sneaky and keeping this game close and potentially even winning. And all kudos to them. I will, say hand up, I was wrong if they win this game. But, I need to see it versus this type of opponent in the Bills first. So I'm going to go with Buffalo. They're -3 on the spread. Not all that high of a number. I like the Buffalo Bills outright and on the spread. But with that, we wrap up our pick'ems. Now looking at our locks of the week. Let's start with the Bucs versus the Falcons. Give me the Tampa Bay Bucs all day long here. I think the Atlanta Falcons just cannot match up with the Bucs. Then moving on, we've got the Colts versus the Texans. I feel like I don't really need to say all that much. The Texans, one of the worst teams in football. The Colts, better than their record indicates. I think they have a lot of success versus the Texans here. Then Giants, Dolphins, no Daniel Jones. The wide receivers are beat to hell for the New York Giants. Give me the Miami Dolphins to win this game. And then finally, Rams versus Jaguars. Rams have been struggling these last couple of games. But versus the Jaguars, again, a perfect example of a get-right game. Give me the Rams to win, I think, fairly easily. But with that, we wrap up our pick'ems, our locks of the week. And as always, again, let us hear it in the comments section. Did you agree, disagree? Do you have any other questions? We will do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.